Ladies and gentlemen, power never apologizes for standing alone. There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't need an audience, doesn't need applause, doesn't beg for approval. That strength, the kind that stands alone, is rare. Most people can't handle it. Most people are terrified of it. Because when someone doesn't need the crowd, doesn't bend to the noise, doesn't flinch under pressure, they become dangerous. Not because they're violent, but because they're free. Free from the grip of opinions, free from the weight of fitting in, free from the chains of expectation. The world teaches us to blend in, to follow the flow, to lower our voice if it makes others uncomfortable, to hide our light so it doesn't blind those still trapped in the dark. But real power, it doesn't play small. It doesn't apologize for being fierce, focused, or faithful. Real power walks into a room and shifts the atmosphere without saying a word. It doesn't need to raise its voice because its presence speaks volumes. Standing alone doesn't mean being alone. It means you're strong enough to hold your ground when the ground is shaking. It means when others fold under pressure, you stand. When others change their truth to keep the peace, you hold the line. You don't shout. You don't chase. You don't crumble, because real power doesn't chase validation. It commands respect. And it does that by knowing who it is, even when no one else understands. They'll call you stubborn. They'll say you're difficult. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, or arrogant, but deep down, what they're really saying is, you won't break like we did. What they really mean is, you didn't bow when we all did. And that makes them uncomfortable. That makes them angry, because your refusal to bend reminds them of the weakness in their own spine. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight to be seen. Just keep walking. Keep moving with that quiet strength. The kind that comes from scars, not just survival. The kind that comes from battles no one saw but God. The kind that doesn't whimper for sympathy, but rises every time it's knocked down. People are drawn to the strong, but they don't always know how to handle them. They'll admire you in silence, envy you in secret, and try to test you in public. Don't respond, don't explain. Real power doesn't react, it stands, it doesn't gossip, it doesn't compete, it doesn't lower itself. Because it knows, power never apologizes for standing alone. They fear what they can't control. It's not your voice that shakes them. It's your silence. It's not your power that scares them. It's the fact that they didn't give it to you. Because when people can't put you in a box, label you, or predict your every move, they start to panic. Control is comfort for the weak. They sleep better knowing they've got a grip on your choices, your emotions, your future. But the moment you step outside of their grasp, the moment you start thinking for yourself, walking in your truth, refusing to play their game, they don't know what to do with you. They try to manage you with guilt, try to bind you with shame. They offer praise only when you fit their mold and pull it away the second you don't. But when you don't flinch, when you don't need their approval to breathe, they see something in you that they can't reach. And that's what rattles them, because power that can't be bought or bribed is rare. Influence that can't be manipulated is dangerous to the system. People fear what they can't predict, what they can't bend, what they can't break. And if you've ever noticed the tension in the room when you speak truth without hesitation, that's the fear talking. Control is their safety net. They control through fear, through pressure, through groupthink. They want you nodding when they lie, smiling when they mock, clapping when they deceive. But when you cross your arms, raise your eyebrow, and say, "No, I see through that," you become a threat. Not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you're awake. And a person who is fully awake cannot be used like a puppet. They'll try to paint you as rebellious, difficult, even crazy. But don't mistake that for rejection. It's projection. They're not mad at you. They're mad they can't bend you. They're mad they can't figure you out. You stopped playing by their rules, and now the game no longer makes sense. The moment you broke the cycle, you broke their hold. That's what they fear. Your freedom, your mind, your fire, your discipline. They need people who can be led by threats. They need people who can be silenced with approval or crushed with criticism. But you're not one of them. You think too deeply. You walk too boldly. You've been through too much to be moved by whispers or stares. They don't understand how you still stand, how you still smile, how you still speak with clarity and confidence when they tried everything to crush your spine. They don't know what fuels you, and that's what eats them up. They can't predict your next move. They can't tell if you're bluffing or building. They can't find the string to pull, and that uncertainty, that power they don't understand, that's what keeps them up at night, because they fear what they can't control. The storm didn't shake you, it revealed you. There are moments in life that feel like they were designed to break you. The kind of moments that come without warning, hit without mercy, and linger longer than they should. Storms that rip through your plans, tear apart your peace, and leave you standing in the debris of everything you thought was secure. But the truth is, storms don't just test strength, they expose it. They don't destroy what's real. They strip away what was weak, fake, or temporary. When the storm came, it didn't ask your permission. It didn't check your schedule. It showed up loud, angry, and wild, and you felt it. You felt the pressure, the loss, the betrayal. You felt the weight of silence when help didn't come. The sting of abandonment when the ones you counted on disappeared. And still, you didn't fold, you didn't vanish, you didn't become the storm, you stood in it. People thought it would break you, they waited for you to collapse. They expected to hear about your failure, your breakdown, your fall. But what they got instead was silence, stillness, strength. You kept moving when it made no sense to move. You kept praying when it felt like no one was listening. You kept rising. Slowly, quietly, but rising all the same. Because the storm didn't expose your weakness. It confirmed your worth. It showed you what you're really made of. And it showed the world that your strength wasn't for show. It was real, deep, and tested. They saw the surface, but the storm pulled back the curtain. It revealed the fight inside of you, the discipline, the grace, the fire. Most people run from the storm, they numb it, hide from it, distract themselves until it passes. But you walked through it, and you didn't just survive, you transformed. You learned how to hear your own voice over the noise, how to breathe through panic, how to stand still in chaos and let your spirit speak louder than your fear. Now they look at you and they don't understand how you didn't break. But that's because they didn't see the nights you cried and still refused to give up. They didn't hear the prayers whispered between clenched teeth. They didn't watch you drag yourself forward with no applause, no support, no shortcuts. They see the glow now. But the storm forged that. The storm taught you how to carry pain without letting it poison you. How to walk alone without becoming bitter. How to wait without losing your faith. What looked like punishment was preparation. What felt like the end was really the beginning of a stronger, sharper, more fearless version of you. They didn't see it coming. Truth is, neither did you, but the storm had a purpose. It stripped away what couldn't stay. It exposed what couldn't fake, and it revealed what was always there, deep beneath the surface. Unshakable, unbreakable, undeniable. Silence is louder when it comes from the unbroken. There's a different kind of noise that doesn't come from shouting or arguing. It comes from presence, from power, from a calm so deep that it unsettles the room. When someone has walked through fire and come out unburned, they don't have to talk much. Their silence says everything. It speaks of battles fought in secret, pain endured without witnesses, victories claimed without celebration. That kind of silence can't be faked. It carries weight. And when it comes from someone who's still standing after everything meant to break them, it shakes the ground louder than any scream. People expect loud. They expect anger, retaliation, attention, seeking. But when you've truly survived, when you've truly faced yourself in the darkest moments, you lose the need to prove anything. Your peace becomes your armor. Your restraint becomes your message, because silence isn't weakness. It's mastery. It's control. It's knowing you could speak, you could crush, you could correct, but you choose not to. Not because you're afraid, but because you've moved beyond the need to be understood. The unbroken don't need revenge. They don't chase validation. They're not on a mission to convince anyone of their worth. They've already been through too much to care about noise. They've already lost people they loved, survived storms they didn't ask for, and rebuilt from pieces no one else could carry. So when they go silent, it's not surrender, it's a declaration. It's saying, I don't need to explain who I am. I am who I am regardless of who's watching. The loudest people in the room are usually the most fragile. The ones constantly defending, arguing, and proving themselves haven't faced the kind of pain that demands transformation. But those who have stood face to face with betrayal, failure, heartbreak, they don't talk the same way. They walk with a different rhythm. They listen more than they speak. They let their actions do the talking. And in that stillness, that pause, there's a roar that can't be denied. That silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of wisdom, full of memory, full of discernment. It doesn't seek to dominate. It holds space. It doesn't attack, it observes, and people feel it, they notice it, some respect it, others fear it, because they can't manipulate what they don't understand. And they can't compete with a calm that wasn't handed down. It was earned one wound at a time. You can't fake that kind of stillness. It's not practiced, it's lived. It's the result of showing up when no one clapped, of staying kind when bitterness seemed easier, of carrying on when it would have made sense to give up. That kind of silence isn't passive, it's charged. It carries thunder in its calm. It makes people lean in, listen close, wonder what strength must live beneath a surface that's still. The unbroken don't raise their voice. They raise the standard. They don't beg to be seen. They let their silence draw the world in. Because when you've survived the fire and refused to bow, every quiet breath you take becomes a statement. And that statement is louder than anything you could ever say.